Say perfect for the thumbnail. Can be dark and white.
Yeah, actually, oh yeah, it's a nice contrast. It's dark, but I don't care because it just feels cozier and warmer and more comfortable in this room with the lights out. I have a little lamp in behind my desk, which you can see the reflection of in the background behind me, and that's just enough light. And I'm actually
Usually
standing.
my place is super dark as well. I actually just set up two different lamps just for the lighting.
Okay, looks like yeah, you've got that like that lens distortion thing on right to like to frame you. What's it called? Portrait mode, right?
I'm not sure actually. Maybe it's just the settings I've always have on. Yeah, it's like an original ratio. That's this. It should change, I think.
Oh, I'm already recording, so I should just do the thing where I introduce you. This is Mr. Adam Warkan, friend of mine, traveling the world. Couldn't say where he is right now. He's sometimes in Serbia, sometimes in the Netherlands, sometimes in Hong Kong, sometimes in airport lounges between two places. Where are you right now, Adam?
I'm in Serbia, Belgrade.
Oh,
Pretty
nice.
much moved here like 9 months ago. So this like main base.
That's your base for now.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. It's
How'd you like it there?
oh, it's awesome. It's really awesome. Like from the first, I think the first day I came here up till now, from all the places I've been traveling for 7 years. It was by far my favorite.
Why?
Everything is still kind of old. So there's like the modern part and there's the old part. So
Mhm.
the modern part, so it works good enough for me to enjoy it, but it's also old enough for me to enjoy the other parts. Okay, there's still nature, there's still corruption, so that's always good. You can just buy your way in.
Oh, I
I
love
like
that.
having that. Got
No,
a
I mean
problem, just
corrupt places are so good. Like you just it's just so much more. Corruption is actually more efficient than bureaucracy.
I actually do believe that. Like, I remember my dad wanted to build something in Hong Kong. He could probably never build that, but with some quick connections, everything was
Yeah.
suddenly fine. So that was pretty nice.
Did you grow up in Hong Kong?
No, I didn't, but I did go back like almost every year for a month, maybe 2 months.
Is that where your mom and dad come from?
Just my dad, just my dad. My mom is just across the border, mainland China,
Hmm.
but it's pretty close, like maybe 2 or 3 hours.
You were there this year for a while, as I recall, right?
I just came back. I just came back actually a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
But last year I spent 7 or 8 months in Hong Kong.
So, like, when you're back there, do you have like a friend network? Do you have family connections, cousins, and stuff like that?
Mainly just family, cousins. Got a couple of friends, but it's the Hong Kong culture is very different. So it's kind of hard for me to switch back to like, okay, this is how people are here, this is how I am. So it's a little hard sometimes.
What are the big differences that stand out to you, like versus? You mean you're Dutch, right? You lived in the Netherlands most of your life.
Yeah, I grew up in the Netherlands, but even
Hmm.
there, I was kind of the outsider as well. But in Hong Kong, I would say it's very materialistic, especially the guys I got to know. Like they're investment bankers, lawyers, and doctors and whatever. So they work a lot, but when they don't work, it's all just about money. They want to spend a shit ton of money every single weekend. I know a lot of guys spend like 20K for a night out. I'm like, I don't want to be part of that. Like, I don't mind going out for dinner. It's still fun. They're fun guys to hang around with, but I don't feel like spending that money. Like I grew up poor, so for me, spending €4 on a meal that's tastes the same.
Like, did you say 20,000, like 20,000 Hong Kong dollars or US dollars, or what does that mean?
I think euro actually, like maybe 22 US, but it's like a group of them. So they just spend like VIP tables, bottles and stuff and whatever. Um, they throw these huge parties in all kinds of hotels. Like I don't even know the names of the hotels. Like that's they just book a suite, have like a full weekend, just a party there.
Um, and so like, when you show up and you like, these guys are all investment bankers, and you tell them what you do, like what you say, I'm a marketing consultant, or what do you say?
I just tell them I'm chilling and do some stuff online. They never understand what I do. I just show up with flip flops and tank tops. So they're like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" But I think they also can feel that I'm pretty much free to do whatever I want. So they probably assume I just have investments. Like that's the main thing I usually hear. That I think I have investments and I'm just semi-retired, which I kind of was last year. So to them it's like, oh yeah, he's just a weird guy that's funny, so let's keep him around.
And you're always like dressed nice. I mean, which is, um, I don't make as much, effort with my appearance and how I dress these days, which is something I really need to put a bit more energy into. Where'd you get your sense of style from?
um Not sure actually. Like, to be honest with you, 99% of the time, I'm just wearing a white t-shirt, primary white t-shirt, uh, random pants. Most of my clothing is very old actually. I actually have got a white t-shirt right here in my desk as well. This is the main t-shirt. I have 20 of the same ones. Um, so 99% of the time, that's just me. But on calls, I might show up a little nicer. If I have to be
Yeah.
somewhere, I might show up a little nicer. If it's super luxury, in that case, I'll switch back to flip flops and tank tops to kind of stand out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've the same. I've got like a bunch of the same black t-shirt from the same store in the same size. And it's like
It's a lot nicer,
one
yeah.
drawer full of those t-shirts where it's just like you just put it on and it's always fine.
Yeah, I think I mainly switched after I started coaching. Um, Whereas I noticed a lot of the guys they kind of wanted to have someone to look up to, someone more serious. Whereas my first branding was very okay. Let me be funny, let me make jokes and stuff. Like I'm very approachable. Uh,
Yes.
a lot of guys they want more structure, something super calm. Like, well, actually, if you talk to me, I'm usually super dry. I don't really make a lot of jokes. I'm just super dry. Okay, this is what we need to do. Step one, step two, step three. Okay, we're done. Um, so I kind of switched my image afterwards.
And it's true. When people are paying for something like coaching, what they're looking for is somebody to help them with direction. So
Yeah, definitely.
having an authoritative presence matters, and there's lots of different ways to achieve that with your words, with your directions, your actions, and with the way you dress and show up on camera is definitely a very simple shortcut to that.
Yeah, it's something I never really liked actually.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather wear my Primark shirts. They're much more nicer and they're super comfortable. But I do know that the reality usually still is that people will judge you immediately based on your appearance. Like even if you go out and you dress a little nicer, like you will notice difference in how people treat you, whether it's just waiters, whether it's just random people you meet. Whether for me it's like prospects and leads, like, oh, suddenly they treat you very differently. Like, oh, well, this guy probably did something really well. I should learn from him. Whereas if I show up with a Primark shirt, like, okay, maybe not this guy. Who's this homeless Chinese? So I kind of felt like I had to make the switch.
I get this with my beard. Like when I shave it off, like people just are not. They're much nicer to me when I have my beard. People just treat me so much better when I have my beard than when I shave it off. And so funny. A buddy of mine reached out the other day, and he's like, Caprani, he's like, well, you've got that beard. You look like a Viking marauder. He said, when you shave it off, you look like Ron Weasley. Never shave it off.
I actually love your beard. I think that was a main thing when we met. Like, when was it? Like maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the guy with the beard. Like everyone knew him. I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone still knows you with that image.
Yeah, well, because it's bright red as well, that kind of does stand out.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with when you're doing this online thing is like you're not seeing people in person, so you have to have things that make you stand out, little visual identifiers that people at a glance say, "Oh, it's that guy."
Yeah, exactly. Like I usually tell my student, like, pick something that you really love. Um, for example, with Hill, I think you know Hill as well. Like she just turn on the horses. Like, let's use the horse image.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got some other student like, cool. Let's all hate on Mailchimp, and they
Oh,
start doing that. Or yeah, yeah, other guy like, well, I'm kind of from here, so let me take some jokes from that. So it really works to just take one thing and people know you. I know, I believe Brennan Hopkins kind of did it with the pizza. So
yes,
everyone knew him like the pizza guy.
the guy who
And
likes
he's got
pizza.
who is this other Asian guy with the bananas? I forgot his
Oh,
name, but I've seen him a lot.
Daniel Dewan, but
Yeah,
I don't. Well, he doesn't do it as effectively, I think, because he puts too many eggs in the pudding. Like he leans on that joke every
yeah,
single time, and those kinds of jokes are fun. But if you explicitly make the joke all the time, like what Brennan did, that made I think he did it a little bit better, is that like he doesn't always talk about the pizza, but there's always a picture of a pizza.
Yeah.
You know, he won't even mention the pizza, but there'll be a picture of him eating a pizza. And then what he writes below it is nothing to do with pizza, or he makes jokes like the Two Comma Club from Big Funnels is
Yeah,
the Two Pizza
to Pizza Club. Yeah. I mean, that shit's really funny. But I notice a lot of people would tag him actually in a lot of pizza stuff.
Yeah, now whenever someone has a picture of a nice pizza who's in like that social circle, he gets tagged by it. It's so funny. It's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
It's good as well because it's so broad. Like it's the broadest possible thing. You'd have people who talk about some different area of marketing. They're an expert, like I'm the webinar guy, or I'm the Facebook ads guy, and that's cool. And it's fine, and that can be very effective from the point of view of like advertising. But from the point of view of like more networking and kind of getting known, like I'm the pizza guy. Like that's evergreen. That's never going out
It'll
of
always
fashion.
work.
People are always going to eat pizza.
I think he did it really, really well. I think several times, like several days in a row, I'm like, oh, I see him getting tagged. From my own experience, like I think my personal high where I had like 5, 6 discovery calls a day were
Mhm.
definitely the days where I got tagged for all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So it's definitely really good for networking.
Like, what do you do these days? Because my primary understanding is that you were like email marketing for a long time, but I think these days you're a coach as well.
Yeah, I started coaching like maybe 15, actually maybe 2 years already, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I rarely talk about it actually, but it started out with people reaching out to me. So like, yeah, sure, I'll do one-on-one. Then quite recently, maybe 2 months ago, I started doing group coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more like a side thing. It's just for fun. I honestly don't make a lot of money with that. I lose a lot of money on doing that actually.
It's very
So
high
main thing,
touch.
sorry?
It's very high touch.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But it's a lot of fun to do. I love doing it. Up till now, I think 90 or 90, maybe even 95% of all my students after 2 months have at least sales calls or like one premium client.
Mm-hmm.
So success rate is good, but I think it's because we have so few students every single time. So that's nice. But that's like a really small part of what I do usually. Besides that, I do a lot of Instagram copy, IG shout outs. But, then I repurpose a lot of stuff in email copy as well. Like I do write a lot of email copy. I'm still writing every single day, several emails, still write launches, sequences. What I notice is that kind of becoming a media buyer and looking at bigger stuff did so much more than just copy. Like my
Yeah.
copy could improve a little bit. Whereas if you put me in a position where I can like actually spend 50K like in a month or more, okay, cool. Now we're actually talking. Now I can really like increase the revenue by so much more than just copy.
Yeah. You can have the more levers you can pull, the more impact you can have in a business.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I think this is a thing I keep on coming back to this in a lot of these conversations is that most of us who became copywriters in the last few years got interested in copywriting because we bought something, a program or a course or whatever, that told us about like it was an opportunity to turn a simple skill or an interest in words and
Mhm.
reading and writing into a business. And that's great. But when people sell copywriting education, they'll usually sort of they'll gild the lily a little bit. And as important as copywriting is, as pivotal it is, and I see this with a couple of friends, one in particular who really has an extremely simple business, but like copy is for me when I see what he does, like the quality of his copy is superb, and it really is a what's the word? It's a differentiating factor in his success.
Yeah.
It's a very important lever in his success. But he's unique. He's different to a lot of people. Whereas a lot of businesses online, copy is important, but it's just the last little bit. So many things
It's
have
just
to
one
happen
part. Yeah.
before the copy gets in front of somebody's eyeballs,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where a lot of stuff falls down.
I wrote a post about exactly that topic quite a while back, and I got so many hate comments on it. Like, no, you're totally wrong. Copy is super important. Without copy, you're useless. But how about all the other stuff? Like, there's like a 40-man team behind this. You got the marketing and everything going on. Like,
Yeah,
it's copy is just the last part. Like, yeah, your copy wasn't why it got like 1 million. Like that was just a very small part. Like I could probably just put in a random link in the email and we'd still gotten a lot of money as well. So it's not just the copy.
If you've got like a solopreneur business or a very, very simple info product business, it is hugely a huge lever. But like I've recently started working inside of a company doing like a fractional CMO role. Uh,
Mhm.
what I'm seeing already is like, it's a small business. It's not like a huge company, but there's still like 20 plus people involved in the product,
Yeah,
between the core team of people who work inside the business and then other people who are helping out. It's probably closer to 30 people that you have to touch everything, because there's invoicing, there's sales, there's appointment setting, there's
yeah, there's so
marketing,
much stuff.
there's management, there's people who are just looking after the finances and accounting. And people I think inside of this space sometimes haven't had that experience, and they don't realize how complex a lot of people's businesses are. And that's why a lot of businesses, like when people talk about, I'm making 60, 70, 80% margins, maybe they are now today, but if they're going to grow their business, a lot of
You
that
can't
margin
keep
gets
them.
eaten up by
Yeah,
operational complexity, right?
yeah. I think as a freelance copywriter, your margins can be super high. If it's just
Mm-hmm.
Google Docs, for example, I did it too for a very long time. But once you start hiring people, your revenue will go up, but your expenses also go up. Profit margins will go down. But overall, like I would much rather have 100K and with some expenses than just still 10, 20K and full profit.
Yeah, agree. Um, so you mentioned about Instagram a moment ago, and this is kind of something I'm starting to get some exposure to because I didn't really until quite recently realize what a powerful sales channel Instagram is for so many businesses. So can
Mhm.
you just talk a little bit on that, on why is Instagram so valuable for sales?
I think because you can get a lot of eyes very, very quickly. And it's good to nurture people because a lot of people, they're just doom scrolling every single day. They'll keep seeing your face. And I think also the touch points, like of having your appointment setters, having a little touch base so that they can talk with you every single day, well with you, so with the setters. Whereas with email, for example, it's cool, book a call. Well, but where was everything in between? And I was actually talking about this yesterday as well with some friends of mine. Like, you wouldn't meet a girl and then just tell her, like, do you want to marry me? Like, that's the book of call. Like, do you want to marry me? Like, no, you go on a few dates. Like, you need appointment setter. Like, talk with them a little bit, nurture them, send some lead magnets, new resources, new mini courses. Um, so a lot of that stuff just helps a lot. Like show up rate is so much higher. One of my clients right now is like an 80 or 85% show up rate, which is
Wow.
really good in my opinion. Like that's crazy.
Yes.
But without the appointment setters, without the SMS marketing, without the like the closers calling them like 15 minutes in advance, like really quick, like it's still a good time. You just don't have that. But it helps a lot. And also with all the existing big pages on Instagram, one shout out. So like you pay them, they post your content. They might have, for example, Wild has like I believe at least 10 million, if not more. I'm not exactly sure, I don't know the number. Like millions and millions of viewers every single day.
Mm.
So they post for you just once, and suddenly you have thousands and thousands of people following you. I think it had it like last month where one of the accounts grew like 7,000 in a day. So it's
Whoa.
7,000 new followers. They cost per follower, maybe $1 or something. And we only need to make one sale to cover up the expense. But out of those 7,000, we're probably going to get many, many more sales. So the ROI is really good. The highest ROI I've seen personally was 38x, which is absolutely crazy.
Amazing. There's somebody I know who I can talk. After I switch off the recording, I'll talk to you off the record. But there's somebody I know who I think that could be a good fit for. So remind me about that after I press the stop button.
Thanks. Appreciate it. But it's a really fun game. It's a really fun game.
So
There's so many moving parts. You can play around with it. Like, cool. What kind of new content can we do? Um, there's a lot of copy pasting as well. Like people, I see it a lot. Like every single time I come up with something new, it takes less than 24 hours for me to see it on another 15 accounts, which is kind of flattering. So it means my copy is pretty good. I think my graphic designers are doing awesome. So I'm very happy about that. But it also showed that a lot of people aren't very creative. But even though they aren't creative and they're copy pasting your stuff, they still do really well. So there is a lot of money to be made.
So with doing the shout outs, do you operate like almost like a brokerage? Like you are building the relationships with the bigger pages who have the audience, and then you're actually connecting them with
Yeah, there
businesses that need the exposure or the traffic?
it kind of depends. Like I've thought about doing that as well, but right now, since I aim for a rev share with all my clients, so I
Mm-hmm.
want to have the cost as low as possible. Actually, I invested back in one of my clients as well. Like I just told him, cool, pay me less, put that money in the shout outs, because I do believe the ROI is that high. So I don't take a fee for that. I really try to negotiate the price as low as possible, which is really funny. He spoke to the same pages and he got a pretty much 10 times higher price than we got.
Mm-hmm.
So negotiating is very important because these guys, they start at crazy prices. They just want to see like, how much can I get out of you? And if you say yes, that's great for them. But because we've been doing it for maybe like 1.5 years or something, so for quite some long time, we know what price to expect, what the best prices are, what the bulk prices are, so we can really lower the cost per follower, which means a much higher ROI.
And when you're doing this, like, is there diminishing returns? Like, do you have to keep on rotating different shout outs for accounts for shout outs? Or can you have like one good relationship? Like, if you've got one big account here that's in a certain area, let's take an example like health supplements, and then your client account is in the health space as well. Is there like a natural match between those two where you can keep on shouting them out, or does it lose effectiveness after a while?
You can definitely keep using them, but let's say the page you work with isn't really good and they're not actively growing, they're not
Mm-hmm.
actively putting new content, they're not their follow growth is kind of stagnant, then
Yeah.
it's probably not as profitable anymore after a while because people have seen you, people who wanted to follow you have already followed you, so you'll start losing money on it usually. Well, depending on the price, actually, if the price is very low, you could still make money. But if the price is too high, they should probably look at the numbers. Okay, maybe it's not the greatest ever, but at the same time, it's also a little bit of a numbers game. Like whether your content will go viral or not, it might go viral on one account, but it might not go viral on the other 20, 30 accounts that you're posting on that same day. So I know a lot of pages they work with maybe three, four, five, maybe up to 700 different pages. So at that point, how are you going to track every single page? Like what followers came through which page? That's pretty much impossible to track as far as I know. If anyone knows, I would love to know. Yeah.
So you're saying that one page, your one page, Instagram page, as a business owner, you might be working with hundreds of different other pages, like rotating the shout outs just to keep the traffic coming to your page. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay.
We just try to get as many people to post. On Sundays, it could literally be 100. Other days, maybe just a few dozen. And then you kind of test it out with in batches. So let's say you've got one really good content that performed well on your account. You can repurpose that same content to post on these pages, the shout out pages. But if you see it doesn't perform at 9 a.m., then it's probably not a really good idea to keep pushing at 10 a.m. for another 40 pages.
This sounds like the kind of thing where if it's not super trackable, that it's kind of everything is very must be very driven by relationships, that it's all about like who you know and trust and be able to work with people and have a business relationship with them. Am I correct?
It's definitely hard to keep track of all the pages. Like I've had it happen personally for my YouTube channel as well, where I paid the guy, he posted once, he blocked me and everything. So like then, well, what happens now? So if you have hundreds of pages, you pretty much need people full time, maybe even two people full time to just keep track of all the pages. Like, are they actually posting? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Is it on time? Are the highlights right? Like, formatting could be wrong as well. Like, if you crop it, then suddenly the content looks like shit. Like, it's not as nice, so it will perform um, much less than it should do. So small differences can actually make a huge impact on performance as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And maybe you can take a look at, like, cool, are my competitors working with them as well? And are they competing with me on the same day? Like competing with me around the same time? So there are a lot of moving parts. Like, okay, cool. How am I going to play this game?
And this is all for organic content, right? This is not for paid ads. This is for like stuff that's in people's Instagram feeds as organic content. Am I correct?
Yeah, for them, they just see it in their feed. And you pay the shout out pages to post it. They will also see it in their feed. So it's not directly. You could do it directly with Instagram Boost. I believe Instagram Boost was kind of, it just never really worked until maybe 2 months ago, as far as I know. And maybe some guys made it work. I didn't. But right now, last 2 months, so I've seen some pretty good Instagram Boost stuff going on where there is actually a pretty good ROI. But the main difference is that they might not be as nurtured. Um, so same thing here, like you might have higher numbers. Like if when we're talking about like profit margins, maybe lower profit margins, but the numbers are much higher. So you got the quantity. So you will still make a lot of money.
And for somebody, if they're thinking, okay, I want to grow my Instagram, because it's interesting. Wasn't aware of the depth of this. Like I knew this kind of market existed, but I didn't realize it's such a big deal. And
Mhm.
it's like all of these different platforms, in some way or another, they go pay to play, right? And if the ideally the platform themselves, they want to monetize people, so they have their advertising program. But
Yeah.
then there are other ways that users are using the platform and transacting business without the platform taking a cut of it, which is, I mean, that's a whole separate topic, but I'm guessing like the platform's thinking we would love to get a slice of that money too, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why they're starting to work on Boost, and the
Yeah.
algorithm has been changing. The algorithm has been changing all the time, actually. Like I try to stay on top of that like every single day. But right now, what you notice with the shoutouts as well, if you compare it with 2 years ago, with the prices, they went up so much more because so many more people are actively doing it. They figured it out. I think before, like maybe a couple tenors, you could be on big pages, whereas right now you got big pages like charging up to maybe 1,000, 1,500 for one post, which is crazy. It's like one Instagram post if you think about it. Um,
Yeah, but that's leverage again, right? Like the
yeah,
right page, you pay them 1,000. And if you've got your own page set up right and your own offer set up right, that could mean 10,000, 50,000 in a
yeah,
day, right?
definitely. Um, like I said, with the highest ROI I've seen 38 times. Like just do the math there. Like cool, let's put 50K in. Like what are we getting out? So it is a really fun game, but I do see that it might get saturated in the next two,
Mhm.
3 years. And especially if Boost will perform a lot better, then you'll see people move away from shoutouts. Well, I assume they will move away from shoutouts into Boost, maybe into YouTube, maybe into Facebook, TikTok, because they're all competing with each other. Like, cool, where's the money going? Um, but like every platform could work. Like, are we going to make this specific platform work? Is it the highest ROI? Are we trying to get several sources of income? So there's a lot of stuff you can play with.
If somebody has an Instagram page and they're thinking, okay, I would love to grow this with shout outs, what should they be thinking about how to set their page up to take the best advantage of using a shout out?
Um, that's a very good question. I would probably actually start with very simple content. Very simple content. See, okay, is my content engaging? Do people actually like it? That's the starting point. So you kind of try to see organically already, like, okay, what is working? What can we test it out? Then you start with smaller pages, maybe a low budget, let's say a couple thousand maybe. Then you grow from there. Um, you slowly try to scale it and test your content every single day on your own feed. And depending on what works, then we can use that, repurpose it for the shoutouts. I think that would work really well. Then afterwards, you just start scaling. You look for more pages, bigger pages, pages that perform better. So for a lot of people, a lot of IG shoutout media buyers that I know, they look at likes. They might even look at comments. But if you take a deeper look into the likes and the comments and the followers, it doesn't really mean much. Like I could literally buy 1 million followers today. I have a big page, but they're all bots, so it doesn't really work. Maybe an old page had like 2 million followers, but they're not active anymore. So you can post there, but your reach won't be really big. So you got to take that in account as well. Like, can I really go into the back end? And are these people trustworthy? Are they actively working on it? Like a lot of pages are just breaking down. Like you're buying a house that's pretty much messed up, and it's probably easier to just get rid of the house and just start building again. Um, you really got to look into that.
So like there's two parts to any type of effective marketing. There's the traffic and the conversion. And like the shout outs sound like the traffic. But when those shout outs arrive to your page, well, when the traffic from those shout outs rather arrives to your page, that's the point where you need to convert them. And so like, what works well there? Is it running people through to a funnel, or is it actually more like a sales type process where they're being directly engaged by live agents?
I think there are several parts for that actually. Got like just the normal content where you just nurture. Then you can be very hard lead gen as well. There are a few guys, they only put out value. There's just information, information, information. And maybe once in 10 posts, like there's a call to action. Whereas other guys, because they have a higher ad spend, they just boost a lot of shout outs and they're very lead gen focused. Every single post just call to action, like comment whatever, we're gonna reach out to you, click the link in the bio, and they both work. They both really work really well. But from my own experience, like having both and having a variation of nurturing, having a lead gen, having all the viral stuff where you get a lot of new followers. A lot of followers kind of numbers game. Because you will get a lot of shitty leads, they will be there as well. So conversion might go down, but it's still fine. Like as long as all my closers have 8 calls every single day, I'm still happy. Like I'll might have to sift through like hundreds of third world country leads. It might not lead to anything, but at the same time, I will have those guys from first world countries who are willing to spend all the money on my course and my coaching.
Mm-hmm. And you said you're closers. So do you actually run sales process for people as well? Like you'll run a sales team for them as well as the traffic?
I try to help wherever I can, but usually my clients where I work with, they already have like a closer team, so they have everything there. One of my newer clients, he actually kind of has it. It's not perfect. Since I've been doing all my own closing for the last 4 or 5 years, I tried to jump in like maybe we can try this, maybe we can brainstorm about that, and try to be very nice about it. Don't want to like jump into their role, but just give them some few small suggestions on how I would do it, what I've seen that works for other clients. Just kind of try to improve a little bit every day.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna drift away from like digging into the minutiae of Instagram marketing now, but it's good to talk about it. I don't necessarily make this a marketing show, but if somebody has like domain expertise in an area that I don't know about, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to find out more. Let's
It's
talk about your love of horses instead. What's
I
that all
love
about? You're a horse crazy, right?
um I do love horses. I'm not sure why exactly. I'm guessing it's probably some Mongolian genes that are very active in my body. They're screaming for for some conquering somewhere in Mongolia or China. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think since I was little, like watching these shows on YouTube where I could see like these Mongolians like shooting bow and arrow on horse. I'm like, shit, that's like the craziest thing ever. Like that must cost a lot of time and effort. Um, I think the first time I've been on a horse, like maybe 2, 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't believe that this creature, this animal is so big, but it's super smart, it's super calm, or at least my horse was. I'm sure there are plenty of horses which aren't. But it's so crazy to kind of connect with an animal that much. Like I just move a little bit, move my leg a little bit, and it just follows.
Yeah.
It looks at me and it understands me. And the kind of bond that you have with a horse is it just feels very special to me. I have it a little bit with dogs as well since I was little. But with horse, it's just I can see a random horse, cows as well. I'm like, okay, cool. I kind of feel a connection, weirdly enough. So yeah, I'm not sure.
My nephew is into horses, and it's been wild to see because like he was such a shy, quiet kid, like even a couple of years ago. And he's not like he's completely changed since he got into horses. Like he's competing in events. He's 10 years old now, and like watching him on this massive horse, like going around arenas and jumping over stuff. And it's like, damn, he's like a little tiny man on that
That's
thing.
scary.
Confidence he has, the control he has, and the way the horse like obeys his commands is just
Yeah.
wild. But like the difference it's made in him as a person, like how the way he stands up now, his posture, how confident he is in himself, just walking around even off the horse is like night and day to how he was 2 years
Yeah.
ago. It's wild.
I think you'll have to be if you're around horse all the time. Like they'll notice. They'll see if you're not confident.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And yeah, like the whispering stuff, like he does like seem to have this way of communicating with the horse that's kind of uncanny. It's weird stuff.
You said he's 10 and he's
He's
competing?
10. Yeah, he's competing. My sister takes him all around at the weekend to shows and stuff, and he's competing already. It's really wild, yeah. Yeah,
That's awesome.
if he keeps it up, he could go a long way with it. Like he's really gifted kid.
That's really awesome. I think in Ireland and the UK it's very big, right?
Horse stuff is huge in Ireland. Like it's not,
Yeah.
a lot of it is wealthy people, but like a lot of middle class people will sacrifice a lot of stuff to get a horse or be a part owner of a horse or be a member of a horse club or something like that, so that
Yeah.
they can and not just competing, just like even just riding for fun or learning the skill. And especially outside of Dublin and rural Ireland, people are a lot of people are horse crazy.
I always thought it was like a very wealthy thing. And then
Yes.
after going to Eastern Europe, I was like, oh, maybe it's different in every country. Because here it's I think it's a lot of travelers who are like, oh yeah, let's get some horses. You don't really see a lot of wealth. Well, at least I haven't seen a lot of wealthy people with horses. Maybe they are, but I haven't seen them. But I see a lot of travelers with horses.
Yeah, it's it by travelers, do you mean gypsies?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, but it's because it's different. Like there's different aiming. Like travelers is specifically an Irish thing. Like if gypsy people in Ireland, they go by the name of travelers. But I
Hmm.
think in the UK, there's different types. Like there's people who call themselves Irish travelers, and they will be like there's children or descendants of people from Ireland,
Hmm.
even if they weren't born in Ireland, and would still consider themselves Irish. And then there are other people who call themselves gypsies, who I think they're like Romany gypsies. They're from a different origin. They see themselves as European origin, and like they're a
Hmm.
different ethnic group. But I didn't know like you probably also then like travelers or gypsies in where you are in Serbia.
Yeah, a lot. Like I'll walk around and every single day to ask me for money.
Okay, and did they have a horse keeping culture there as well?
um, I'm not exactly sure. I do see it very often.
Yes.
Especially if I go out a little bit further to the city center, I'll see a lot of people with horses.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Like Irish travelers as well, they are horse crazy. They just love horses, and they will keep horses like and you'll see them like they'll ride what's called, I think, a sulky. Like they use them for
Mhm.
racing in America, like a really like simple like steel frame, like what's the word? Like a steel frame cart with two wheels
Mhm.
and like a really simple like kind of a plank for a seat, like super dangerous, but they
Oh,
use
but
them to
always in a
race.
lane.
And like that's like it's kind of a competitive sport in the US, but like you
Mhm.
see people doing this on the roads here. It's pretty wild.
Some crazy gladiator stuff.
Yeah, gladiator stuff. Like it's real old school culture. And that's kind of a thing with the horses. I think it cuts across like different social classes. There certainly are people who are like dressed up in very expensive designer clothing and doing that kind of dressage and like very like the kind of horse related sports that maybe you have to have like 50 or 100,000 worth of equipment to even start with. But then there are
Yeah.
just ordinary people who have a piece of land and have a horse or have a field they keep their horse in, and just it's for fun.
It's crazy when I think about like before I got into all the horse racing stuff, I never knew that there was so much money in horses at all. Like all the events, all the horse, like just buying a winning horse, like it's absolutely crazy. Like maybe billions.
Yeah, it's got to be like in Ireland alone, like people, I mean, it's the culture of that has kind of it's gone away from before. Like of but a lot of people still do gamble like crazy. But like my grandfather's generation, like that was one of the main kind of pleasures in life like a man could have if he attained some success, was like being a what did they call it, they used to call it a sportsman. It was a euphemism, like basically a dude who loves gambling. He's a great sportsman.
Professional bookie defeater.
Yeah, exactly. And what else can we talk about tonight? Because we don't have a lot of time left. I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. I try to keep these fairly tight. You want to tell me a little bit more about other stuff that you're doing outside of work? I don't want to talk any more business.
Besides work,
Yeah.
um, besides work, yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff going on. Generally speaking, I keep my life very private. Um, but overall, I think I'm trying to settle in Serbia, like trying to get to know everything here. Um, it's it was a lot easier than expected, actually. Maybe because I always heard about stuff from China, and I've been to China many times. I'm from small villages in China and Hong Kong, so there were a lot of similarities with like family, corruption as well. So I wasn't really shocked when I heard things here. So I pretty much immediately could get into it, like, okay, yeah, corruption, yeah, sounds normal, sounds good. So that's the main thing besides work, I think. But yeah, it's awesome. I really think Serbia is one of those places people kind of underestimate, and they always want like, oh yeah, let's go to the EU, and it's so great. But I really think like being outside the EU, like you'll have some EU benefits like, for sure, but you also have the benefits of not being part of the EU.
Yeah, like
Um,
monstrously high taxes,
yeah,
crippling taxes.
I think taxes here is like 15%, which is a lot less. Like, okay, maybe Hungary is a little better. Hungary is like 9%, I think. But yeah, then you're in Hungary, and I don't think Hungary is that that nice to be. But
I've never been, although Budapest does look like a beautiful city. But Serbia is somewhere I've never been. I want to actually check it out because I've heard good things from not just you, but from other people too.
yeah, you should visit sometime. It's by far my favorite. I've traveled in many countries the last 7 8 years. It's in Europe. It's definitely my number one, like by far.
Do you see that's going to be your base for the next couple of years now?
Probably for the rest of my life. I'm guessing it's going to be for the rest of my life. Yeah,
Wow. Okay, man, that's big. It's big stuff. And
but
yeah, like the
yeah, would love to have several bases actually. So maybe long term to have base in Hong Kong, in the Netherlands, maybe other places too, but more as maybe as Airbnbs or whatever. But I think that would be really nice. Just every single place you go to, it still feels like home. Um, like a buddy of mine, he has like I believe 5 different home bases, and he just travels from home base to home base. Maybe Amsterdam, Dubai, um, somewhere in Asia where I'm not sure. Um, so that seems very nice to have. But let's just start with two, the Netherlands. Actually, Hong Kong, Netherlands. I've got a base, so this is kind of number three. This is the main base. Then Hong Kong and Netherlands, like a second and third.
are your mom and dad still living in the Netherlands?
Um, they pretty much moved to Hong Kong. I think most of the year they're in Hong Kong. Maybe 2 or 3 months. Actually, less, maybe 2 months a year. They'll be in the Netherlands. Just see my nieces, see my nephew. But besides that, I would much rather spend time there.
And you keep a family connection still in the Netherlands when you go back?
Um, I don't know how many. I don't think I've been back for like 5 months, maybe. But yeah, whenever I go back, I'll definitely see my sisters almost every single day, which is really awesome. But we all have very different views. Like they have their stuff, I have my stuff, so it's sometimes it's a little harder.
Sure. Adam, if you want people to find out about you or connect with you, where should they look for you?
Um, I think probably on Facebook that's the easiest. I'm not too active anymore. But if they have questions about anything we spoke about, I would love to just help them out, answer some questions. So just Adam Warkan on Facebook.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the video description for you. It's funny, like you've got all these different things going on, like you're coaching, you got the Instagram business, but you don't really maintain a public profile. It's interesting. And I know a few people like this who have businesses that are online businesses, but they don't necessarily need to promote them too much online. It's still kind of privately done.
Yeah, I felt like I really need to in the beginning. Definitely. Like my first 0 to 10K in 3 months was because I was so big and loud. I felt like I really had to because no one knew me. So I didn't have a reputation, didn't have a little bit of a track record, not too much to back me up. Whereas right now, I will get referrals. I'll have my students ask me for stuff. If my students work for their clients and they need a CMO or fractional CMO, like, oh, cool, maybe my mentor could help. So there's always work coming to me. So I usually tell people, like, when you start, you got to chase. Once you're established, then you just farm. I'm just laying back. Like, cool, I did the work the last 3 years. I built up my network. People know me. They refer me. So I don't need to be loud. Like, it just comes. Like, just do the work. I make sure my work is good. I get the results. The outcomes are good. My clients refer me to other people. But I don't feel the need as much anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting for people who are earlier on. It's kind of hard to believe that's the case, but it does. Once you stick around for a certain amount of time and people get to know you, after a while, stuff does just begin to. It's not like magic, but just stuff begins to show up in your life because of connections and relationships you've already got that you don't necessarily go out and look for. And when that happens, like it does make things quite a lot easier. But it's hard to believe that's ever going to happen when you're early days and nobody knows you yet.
Yeah. I think the beginning is it's not hard per se, I think, but believing it and believing in yourself, like having that mindset. It might sound a little bit woo-woo, but believing in yourself is probably the most important thing. And I think beginners, or people who start with it, they don't have it yet. They have a lot of beliefs where, like, oh yeah, I don't, because your entire life is just, well, just get a job, accept it 2-3K a month, and that's just be content with it. And suddenly some random Chinese guy is telling you, well, you could write some emails for 3, 4, 5K.
And he's not
So
even wearing a shiny red suit.
I'm a little skinnier than the red suit guy.
And he's got big these days. Yeah, the waistcoats have gotten tighter and tighter
It's
over
got
time.
very big.
He's trying to hold it all in.
Is he still alive? I don't even know, actually. I haven't seen him around.
Good old Dan Locke. I mean, people give him a lot of shit, but the guy is relentless. Like, he goes away for a while, he
Yeah.
comes back, and you still see his ads. Like, not as much as maybe. I mean, he was at his peak by around 2020 or so.
He did well for himself, like, definitely. But I think he just kind of burned out everything, like, very hard lead gen, very, very pushy.
He
And
got
he just,
overexposed a little bit as well, and then people
yeah,
started to kind of like take him as a bit of a joke or whatever, or like a lot of
yeah,
bad customer experiences. But people I know, quite a few who actually worked with him, um, said, like, it was, while it wasn't perfect, there was a lot of positives. Like, they learned a lot out of it. It
yeah,
was actually
definitely.
a good experience. And even a lot of people say, like, I did Dan's thing. It didn't really work out the way it was supposed to, or the way it was, presented at the time, but it actually was still a valuable experience, and it led me on to the next thing I did.
Yeah. I know some closers that did one of his courses, and they all said, like, it wasn't the best course, but I
Mm.
still got some stuff out of it, and it made me confident enough to actually start. And that alone, actually, like, it did get you some results. Might not be the promised results, but it was a start. I think my first coach that I hired was in 2016. I paid him like 3, 4 thousand euro, I think. Um, I didn't really get anything out of it. I didn't really learn to get better, but it did really push me to start everything else. And now I'm here, what's like 7, 8 years later. Well, I don't regret doing that at all.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, the longer you just hang out and stick around, the more like things that didn't seem so great at the time turn out to actually be quite valuable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A lot of negative experience, I think, or all kind of like stuff you look at is kind of bad. But in the long run, if you look back at it, like, I wouldn't be here today if all that stuff wouldn't have happened. So yeah, it was good. Like, overall, it was good. Maybe it wasn't fun at that time, but later on, it was worth it. It was a good experience to have and improved you as a person.
Awesome. I think that's a good note for me too. Press the stop button and wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here, Adam.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.